Vocational trucks operate in some of the harshest conditions imaginable, so keeping them running properly can pose extra challenges. In part one of this two-part series, Dave Schmitz, product manager of Caterpillar's Global On-Highway Truck Group, explains why ongoing and preventative maintenance is so important if you want to maximize uptime.
Maintenance is vital to the long-term life of a truck and the durability and reliability of the truck. Maintenance has to happen every day. There has to be daily checks, checking oils and fluids and make sure those levels are where they need to be, along with greasing of the important joints on the truck from steering. Also, what's vital, not only to the lifelong durability of the truck, but to the safety of the driver and the safety of everyone else around, is to check those brakes on a daily basis to make sure they're in line and to make sure that they're working properly.
Since there typically aren't any mechanics stationed at construction sites or at other spots where vocational trucks are usually deployed, Schmitz says responsibility for daily maintenance must be assigned elsewhere.
The best way to ensure that maintenance is done is to make the operator responsible for doing those daily checks, checking the fluids. Before he starts in the morning, open up that hood. Most of your trucks today have easy to access maintenance points where they can easily get it from the ground, reach the fill points, reach the dipsticks, and be able to check exactly where they are on each one of those levels. And also, as he's going around the truck, having a checklist to make sure that he hits every point is also vital. And also, of course, checking your brakes, make sure that they're in great positions, they're not held up, they're not too much of a gap, and that everything is working properly before the workday begins.
He says having a checklist is the best way to ensure that major faults aren't missed and that minor issues don't become major problems.
Well, on vocational trucks, when you're off-road, you're going to get dirt. You're going to get a lot more shock loads. You need to start out, of course, how you spec your truck is vital, making sure you have a tough, durable frame. But you always need to check those frame points for cracks and any kind of wear. Usually the weak spot is, depending on how you have your setup, how you set up your truck and what bed you have on the back or what barrel you have on the back, is usually right behind that cab. So you always check behind the cab, along the frame rail, along the cross members, to make there's not any, you can see if there's any cracks or bends or any kind of deformities. Also, taking a look back at your suspension, especially in the rear on an off-highway, takes a lot of abuse. So check if you have a torque rod, make sure that torque rod is positioned properly. The bearings are in proper place, and they aren't seeping any kind of grease. And that'll give you a good indication if that back end of your truck is in good working order. Also, when you're working off-road, you usually are going forward and reverse, and check that rear differential. Make sure you have no leaks in that rear differential. Maintaining that rear differential is vital. And then it's also a lot more wear and tear in your transmission. Check that dipstick. As easy as it is to check a dipstick on transmission, make sure that fluid is in the proper level, especially working off-road.
In the next part, Schmitz talks about which corners not to cut when performing maintenance when caring for a vocational truck.